There we go. Okay, Sanskrit. Hi, everybody. I'm Rebecca. And I think that for the most part, you are all new faces to me, which is really exciting. How's it going so far? Yes. And yesterday you had posture clinic son A. Okay, great. I'm subbing for Laura. Laura normally teaches this morning, but happy happenstance, you get me this whole morning. So the first half of the morning, we're focusing on Sanskrit, what it is, how to say Sanskrit. We'll play around with how to pronounce. And then the second, you'll get a little bit of a break. Then the second half of the morning, we're doing an overview of the Cambio sequence and all of its brilliance, and then ethics discussion. And then you'll get like a 20-minute break, I think. So we're done at 1:10 today. I'm saying this out loud for myself as well. You're done at 1:10, a little bit of a break, and then you're with Erica for the afternoon. So, oh, and halfway through this morning for the sequence and the ethics, the extended group will be joining us, and they're like a whole gaggle of other folks, so we'll probably make room accordingly. Okay. So where do I begin? I would love to know your names. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've been teaching with Cambio for 7 years, and I came through the program just like you 7 years ago. And it's such an honor to be here with you. Sanskrit's very exciting to me because my background is in theater and music and dance, and I've done a lot of dialect work. Don't worry, we're not expecting you to, I don't even have it right, so don't worry about dialect. We're going to be pronouncing things. Yes, we are going to be working on pronouncing things. However, it's really just to get you in kind of the mouth feel and get you out of being scared of saying some of these words, because it only enhances your teaching. It only enhances your experience of yoga to know a little bit more about Sanskrit. And I'm sorry that you will do this probably a lot in the beginning, but if you wouldn't mind going around and just introducing yourself to me so that I will try my best to remember your names, and thank you in advance for all of your grace in that. But we're going to have fun this morning, a whole morning of Rebecca. So let's start here. How about where you're from, like your name and where you're from? If you're from here, say you're from here. I guess that's fun for me because I'm not from here. I'm from Tennessee originally. So yeah, let's just do that. Jessica. Great. Okay. A year ago, so we were still kind of in the pandemic times, and then here you are living your life from Alabama. I love that. Okay, great. Thanks, Jessica.
I'm
Ellie.
I'm originally from Georgia. I lived in California for about 5 years, and then I moved out to the spring 6 years ago.
Cool. Yeah, I just love to know who's a transplant and who's born and raised here. I think it's really fun. Cool, Ellie.
So from New Orleans, Louisiana.
Natasha.
I've been here for since 2014.
Great. Okay. Okay, that's right about how long I've been, not in the Springs, but in Colorado.
Yeah, I was in Denver first.
Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. Born and raised. So exciting. Okay. Okay, Rianne. Yeah, right on, Andy. Okay.
Been in Colorado for 4 years and originally from Florida.
I'm Jen, and Mark is my husband, so we have the same
I love that you all are going through this together. That's amazing. So hats off to you all. That's cool. Jen, great to meet you.
I'm Eden. It's kind of weird. I've spent like the same amount of time in Texas and in Colorado. So born in Texas, lived there for a few years, moved to Colorado Springs when I was in like 5th grade, stayed till my senior year, back to Texas. So I kind of claim both. Texas
Yeah.
and
Sure. Texas and Colorado, I don't know what it is about it, but there's a lot of overlap there.
all over where else to go.
Yeah, cool. What, and your name again? Eden, Eden. Okay, great. Yes, great. Cool. Thanks, Holland.
Born and raised in Florida, and lived in Hawaii and Preston, Boston, Rhode Island. And I've been here for about 33 years now. And I
Wow.
consider this
Yes, I love that. Man, I bet it's changed so much in the last 30 years. Yeah. Okay, Leslie, cool. Jenna.
Born and raised in Montana.
Great. Thanks, Jenna. Okay, new too. Well, welcome to those of you who are new-ish, welcome to the area. And and whether you're new or you've been here forever, I'm just so thrilled that you've chosen Cambio to be your home of learning. So Sanskrit, what do we know about it? What are your feelings about it? Raise your hand if it's scary and intimidating. Okay. Raise your hand if you're like, what is it? Okay, yeah, okay, great. And raise your hand if you're like nerdy about languages and things. And okay, yeah, all right. So Sanskrit, what is it? Who wants to say what it is or take a stab at it? Yes, so Sanskrit there are many different variations, and we'll get more into that, but Sanskrit is the language of yoga. So if you have ever heard, you've probably already heard some of these terms in classes, like Tadasana, Samastitihi, Bhujangasana, Adho Mukha Svanasana. So these are names of poses. It's the Sanskrit name for the pose. I don't know if maybe on orientation day, they talked about Sangha, but that's a Sanskrit word. Your fellow, who you're on this path with. So Sanskrit is made of 2 different words, sam, which means together, and krit, which means to do or to make. So we are putting together words. That's what Sanskrit means, is putting together. It is a member of the Indo-European language family, which means, so those are like all of it's a lot of languages that we have descended from. You'll hear a lot of overlap between our English and Sanskrit sometimes. So you can be like, the word sutra, what does that sound like? Sutra. What else does it sound like in an English word? Suture is, yeah, suture. So that means, what's a suture? Yes, to bind together a thread. And sutra means to bind together, thread. Yeah. So let's talk just a little bit about we'll start here with a little bit of the history of.
Should we be following you in the manual, or just take notes with what you're saying?
Great question. We will be working from the manual. There's no history of in the manual, but you can go ahead and find page 18, I believe it is. that's where we start with your pronunciation guide in the manual. So page 18. Thanks for asking, Leslie. Also, just backing up a little bit, has anyone ever ohmed in class? Om is a Sanskrit word. Let's see, on your chakra nights, you've been given some bija sounds, but also the Sanskrit name or translation of the root chakra, Muladhara, or you've done chakra 1, right? Okay, so all of these words are Sanskrit. It's the language of yoga. Or the Devanagari, yes, Devanagari, I'll write that down, which means language of the gods. It's a sanctified, sacred language. So why, knowing that, why do you think it would be important for us to study Sanskrit from a teacher's perspective?
The bridge to divinity.
A bridge to divinity, love that. Yes, absolutely. So what's lovely about this language is it's telling you exactly what to do. Utthita Trikonasana. Utthita means stretched out. Trikonasana is a triangle pose. So it's literally telling you stretch out in this pose. Open up as much as you can. Devanagari means language of the gods. Let me double check that I spelled that correctly. Devanagari, yes. So it enriches your experience of yoga. Why is it important to learn or study Sanskrit? Just in general.
Because maybe no matter where you take yoga, if you don't speak the language, you can still follow along and understand.
Yes, that's another great point. I've been to classes before all over the country, and you'll learn throughout your teaching journey that poses, we have an English name for them, like here at Cambio, but if you go to another studio, they might use a different name, but the Sanskrit word is always the same. So I've been to other classes, like I've been to a class in Hawaii where I remember it was me and a non-English speaking student, and the teacher used the Sanskrit names of the poses. So we both knew we knew what to do. Yeah. On a broader scale, why would it be important to study Sanskrit? Yeah. Absolutely. So that's one of the, I would say one of the biggest things, Heather, because from this, what we're doing is with all of our learning is trying to honor the roots of yoga and where it came down from. Sanskrit is an oral language. So it began orally and it was eventually codified, but that took hundreds of years for it to become codified. It's a classical language of ancient India. In the 4th century, Panini, if I'm saying his name correctly, Panini, which is around the same time as Patanjali, if you've heard Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, he established the grammar for Sanskrit with 4,000 sutras or short sayings. It's an intellectual language, it's philosophical, and it's epic. It's poetic. Traditionally, you memorize the text before you learned what it meant. And this will come up for you in chanting later on whenever you're doing your chanting workshop with Austin. But a lot of the times we'll ask for even Om. A teacher doesn't always explain what Om really is before we chant Om. So it's something that we hope you try, and then you can learn the meaning. And yeah, an oral language, pay attention to the sounds. So it's a lot about creating sound. What's so cool about Sanskrit is because it is a sacred language, the way it came to be, or there were these rishis. Rishis are like seers, wisdom monks, meditatives, and they were meditating and meditating and meditating long enough, deeply enough, that the sounds, the actual energetic vibrations of what each thing is that was put into their brains by whatever experience bigger than us is, and that's how they got the terms for Sanskrit. So this is kind of a heady thing to grasp your brain around, but like in English we say that's a plant. It has no real, it's arbitrary. It has no real meaning behind it, that we said that's a plant. But in, well, I don't know the Sanskrit of plant. Okay, tree. We say that's a tree outside. But in Sanskrit, vrikshasana is the name in Sanskrit that is said to have the actual energetic feel and meaning of not only the language, but the tree itself. Does that make sense? So Sanskrit holds the energetic feel of the actual thing. So this is a water bottle, but if we had a Sanskrit term for it, that term would be engulfing what the actual vibration and energetic feel of this water bottle is. Does that make a...
Sanskrit holds the energetic feel of the word.
Of the thing itself, yes. No, the rishis sat in deep meditation. From what I've been taught, rishis sat in deep meditation and the words came to them. Yeah.
And this rishi,
A rishi is a deep we can think of them as monks, but not really. A rishi is like a deep meditative spiritual leader, seer. Yeah. Okay, so time. Questions about some of this so far? And at any time you have questions, I love it. Stop and ask, and I will try to answer them. If I don't know the answer, we'll find out the answer eventually. Okay. So is that sort of making sense? And I think it can make sense to you whenever we ohm at the top or end of a class. That sound changes your own vibration, doesn't it? Have you ever been through class and you're like, this has changed the energy of the room? Yeah, it's because this language is meant to really embody an energetic field, and it's one of the oldest languages. Let me see if I'm missing anything else. Blah blah blah. We talked about that. Yeah, and it's meant to be spoken. So that's one of the biggest things. It's meant to be spoken. We can study it, but the thing I'm going to ask you today, if you feel comfortable with it or not, is get out of your comfort zone just a little bit with trying to say some of these words and pronouncing the sounds. And we're going to do that together. So before we get into the alphabet, and we will be on page 18 in your manual, let's just sit tall and get our bodies a little bit more awake. Take a deep breath in and out. Let the shoulders drop down the back. Flip the palms up so they're facing the ceiling. Touch thumb and forefinger together. Close the eyes if that's comfortable to you. Another deep breath in. Deep breath out through the mouth. Let it go. Moving oxygen through the body. And we will chant Om 3 times. Inhale to prepare. Om. Om. Open the eyes, soften the jaw. Flip the left palm down and reach the right arm up and over. Press into the lower hand. Feel the ribs open as you breathe. And just nod the head yes and no. All the while being mindful of the muscles in the neck, in the throat. Begin to feel space in between the teeth as you relax the jaw. Come back up. Inhale, exhale, go the other way. You can roll the top shoulder open and down a little bit. And then shake the head yes and no again. Turn it in a few different directions. Eyes back up. Twist to the right, just gentle twist. Big exhale. Inhale back to center. Twist to the left. Back to center. And inhale, arms overhead. Interlace the fingers, flip the palms, reach them up towards the sky. Let the shoulders draw up towards the ears. And feel all of that expansion through the rib cage. Feel all of that space in the low belly. Next exhale, let it release, nice and gentle. Okay. Roll the shoulders. And I'm going to ask you to try today. All we're doing is trying. So let's start making some sounds. We started with Om, but just a little I know it will feel silly, and you didn't know you were going to get like a theater class. So this is bonus, no extra charge. But I do find that one way to approach Sanskrit or any other language is to start feeling the resonance in the body and in the face, in the mouth. And then once you start feeling the resonance, you can be like, oh, okay, it doesn't feel so scary or so strange. Take the index finger into this little socket here in the jaw. Feel the jaw open a little bit and just gently massage. Yeah, and you can begin to play around with touching the tip of the tongue to the bottom of the teeth. And maybe you roll the tongue forward. Ha. Big exhale like that. Yes, good. Okay, release. And make it sound like a k. Do you feel that aspirant along the back of the upper roof of the mouth? K, k. I want you to think about the roof of your mouth as a cathedral. So you lift the soft palate just a little bit. Also, did you know that you're getting a voice lesson? I'm just kidding. But yes. So now can you inhale with that same like dome shape in the mouth? Yeah. Do you feel all of that space created? And it's okay if you're like, no, I don't really. But English is a very wide language. We don't resonate. We don't use all of the parts of the mouth really. And what's so cool about Sanskrit is that it's an organized language from the back of the throat, and it moves forward. The sounds start at the back of the throat and move forward to the lips, to the tip of the tongue and to the lips. Try this. So I want you to think about lifting the soft palate and go, ah. Yes. Now touch the tip of the tongue to the roof of your mouth and go, ha. Feel different? It feels really strange, right? Well, this is where a lot of this resonance is going to come from. And it'll make more sense as we get into it. Okay, so let's talk about the Sanskrit alphabet. Page 18. We have on the left-hand side, that box on the left-hand side, all of those symbols, that's the actual language. So this is Devanagari. Devanagari. Try saying that with me. Devanagari. Yes, which means language of the gods, the celestial gods. So what you see on the left-hand side, that's Devanagari. There are 46 letters in this alphabet, which can sound really overwhelming. However, once we get into the pronunciation of it, I think it's going to make a little bit of sense to you. It's a phonetic language, meaning it looks as it sounds as it looks. So there are no th sounds, there's no th, there's no ph, how ph in our language becomes f. There's nothing like that. Whenever you see a p and an h, it is with an aspirant like that. So even though it feels overwhelming at first, if it does, I shouldn't say it will to everyone, but if it does feel overwhelming at first, it's okay. I'm just asking you to try to take time with it. Hey, do you know, so speaking of young children, so I have a 3.5-year-old. Does anyone have kids? Or have you seen kids, how they learn language, how they first begin to make sound? They first begin to make sound and it's so exciting to them. Ah, ga, 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 ba, ba, ta, 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 ta. And they make, even last night, I think it was, my 3.5-year-old, who's has an incredible vocabulary, in my opinion. She still, just for the fun of it, plays with sound. She goes, ga, 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 and makes up her own little language. And the joy that she gets from that, from letting it just not be a thing, from not taking herself too seriously and experimenting with sound, that's what we're looking for today, okay? There is no quiz that I will not be standing in front of you and being like, say it this way. There's no test out. It's really okay. So on the right-hand side there, where we have a very, what can seem like a confusing chart, is actually really well laid out. These are all of the letters of our alphabet, and they are it's the Sanskrit transliteration. So it's put into English so that we can make sense of it. And if you move down to page 19, that has the actual sounds, like it's got a word correlated with the letter for the sound that it's going to make. So I think it'll make a little bit more sense at that point. Either on page 18 or 19, we have a really fun little diagram of a person's mouth. And I want us to talk about this first before we move into the letters, before we start saying the letters. So you'll notice in the back of the throat is the number 1. So that's guttural. That's where the sound begins. So anything, just say guttural. Do you feel it in the way back of your throat and it kind of resonates like right around here? Those kinds of sounds, anything that's correlates to a number 1, that's a guttural sound. Then we move to number 2, palatal. So this is the back of the throat and the tongue. We have here, it says with a slight smile at the hard palate, but that's the kind of sound we were making with the k, 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 k. Whenever you breathe in and you feel that kind of lift, the soft palate in the back of the mouth, Raise your hand if this is making sense-ish to you. Yes, okay. So 2 is palatal. The third sound or the third place in the mouth where we're making the sound is retroflex or cerebral. And that's where the curl of the tip of the tongue touches the roof of the mouth, just like we were practicing with ha, ha, da, 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 da. Yeah, try just that. Place the tip of your tongue at the roof of your mouth. Da, 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 da. Yes, it feels really silly, but once you start getting that openness and space, if you think about that this language is a little bit taller, English is wide. English is wide and lazy, frankly. And Sanskrit, we're doing things a little bit taller. And then we have dental. Number 4 is moving forward. Dental makes sense. Everything is kind of around the tip of the tongue and the teeth. And number 5, labial, or at the lips. So if we go back up to page 18, you have this chart here of all of the letters. We'll start with the vowels, and then you see along the left-hand side of the chart that there is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so there's a row of like the ka, ka, ga, ga, na. That's in guttural. Number 2, cha, cha, ja, ja, nya is palatal. And it kind of moves through like that. But first, I'd like for us to practice the vowel sounds at the very top. So we've got several different vowels, not just A, E, I, O, U. So the first vowel, and let me talk a little bit about, so if there is a line over the vowel, that means it's extended, it's held out. You'll see little dots either above or below some letters. That's called a diacritical mark. And the diacritical mark means it gives you a clue as to how to pronounce that. Are you with me so far? Okay, great. I want you to think of, if you see a diacritical mark, let me make sure that I get this right. Either or, yes. Yes. So if it's on top of the letter, that's a certain place in the mouth. And if it's on the bottom of the letter, that's a different space in the mouth. And this will become more clear-ish when we get to the S's and things like that. Let me see if I remember. I think I had figured this out this week where I was, finally, okay, so I'm embarrassed to say, but it takes a while. Just know that this introduction today, I know you all are sponges right now and you want to absorb everything that you absolutely can, but we're not going to get it all today. A lot might go like this, and that's okay. You have the recording, you can always go back and watch. I'm going to give you, there are some references in your manual for more learning. You can always, after today's session, contact me or contact Laura with questions or about help or whatever it is. So just know you don't have to soak it in all today. That being said, let's move through some of these sounds. So right at the top there, we've got our simple vowels. So a short vowel like the A sounds like this. The A with a line over the top is held out longer. Ah. So if you're on page 19, this kind of gives you a reference point with our English words. A short A is as in cut. A long A is as in mom. So repeat after me. Yes. Moving on to the I's. I, E. Oo. Wait a second. Oo. Why do we have? Yeah. Okay, great. Sorry. So there, and let's readjust. So the U, even so the A, the short A sound sounds more like instead of like we did e, and then oo. Yes, and then next underneath that we have R's, they're vowel sounds. We have R. If you can roll your R's, great. If you can't, that's all right. You just try your best. And then that fancy R with both a diacritical mark and a line over the top, that's R. R, R, R. So we have R, we have R, R. And then the L is like a cross between an L and an R sound. R. Yes, just try it. And you're like, oh my God, you're doing great. So let's go through the vowels again. I, u, r, ri, r. Yes, it's difficult. Now we're moving on to the diphthongs. So the diphthongs, that means it's creating more than one. It's not a pure sound. It's more than one sound. So we have an E is A. An AI is I. O. And then AU is ow. Yes. So let's go through the diphthongs again. We have A, I, O, ow. Great. Are you with me so far? We're going to move on to the consonants. But I'm going to do this, and I'm going to share my screen while I'm thinking about it, so that, because if you ever go back and watch this, you will be so tired of looking at my face. So I'm going to share my screen so that you have the manual there in front of you. Great. So moving on to guttural back of the throat sounds. Ka, ka. Yes, so I've got K-A and then K-H-A. So whenever there's an H, we're really forcing, I don't want to say forcing, but you're really adding more aspirant breath here. So the difference is ka, ka. Yes, do you hear how the second one is more exaggerated? And also this, in general with Sanskrit, the language is, it's meant to be on the breath. As in, it might sound not necessarily softer in volume, but softer in the mouth. Sometimes the consonants, and we'll get into this with like the V, it's not a hard V. It's a soft V, kind of in between a V and a W. So I just want you to think about that while we're working on pronouncing. So ka, ka, g, ga, and na. Na. So think ing. If you were going ing, we'll take off the I and make the sound Yes. If anyone's ever done singing before, like choral singing, in G, it kind of is way in the back of the throat. So as in ink, ashtanga, way back in the back. As we're moving forward, palatal. It touches the soft palate kind of in the back where we made that ka sound. Cha, cha. Cha, cha. Ja, ja. And nya. Do you see how it gets confusing? Because we have an N with a diacritical mark just above this one. That's way farther back in the throat. And then with the tilde on top, this consonant has a slight difference to the pronunciation, as in pinch or Patanjali. So as long as you, and again, if you're trying your best and you're thinking, okay, it's somewhere in this space in the mouth, it's not going to be all that bad. We're trying our best as Americans, right? And I don't get it right all of the time. as well, or ever. So you just do your best. So we've gone through guttural, palatal, now retroflex or cerebral. So this is where the tip of the tongue is on the roof of the mouth. So you put the tip of your tongue on the roof of your mouth for ta, ta. Good. Da, da. Na. So if you'll notice, whenever the diacritical mark is on the bottom of the consonants, that's whenever we put the tip of the tongue on the roof of the mouth. If it's on the top of the consonants, it's further back in the mouth. Making sense just slightly? Okay. Moving on to dental, where the tongue touches the teeth. Ta, ta. Da, da. Na. And labial at the lips. Pa, pa. Ba, ba. Ma. Great. Moving on. Semivowels. It's in between a vowel and a consonant. We have ya, ra, la, and the sound that's not a hard V, it's in between a V and a W, is la. Yes, so I really try to soften the V. That's how it makes sense in my mind, is to put more air around it. La. Yes. And you'll hear, depending on the region or depending on the teacher, depending on the V and the W can be interchangeable. So if you ever hear or see a spelling where there's a W and you're like, I thought that was with a V, it is either or. Okay, so then we have sibilants, which this is where, so there are so many different ways to resonate and pronounce the S that we have. Remember, diacritical mark on the top of the consonant means it's way back in the mouth. Sha. And then diacritical mark on the bottom of the consonant means tip of the tongue to the roof of the mouth is sha. Do you feel how it's a little bit more forward? And then sa. And we have the HA, ha. Then below that, and are you all with me I'm on page 20? Okay, below that we have other sounds or characteristics, as in the KS, which is ksh, like in Lakshmi, or the JN, which you will learn more about. It's a nasal nya sound. So JN, have you heard of Jnana Mudra? Jnana Mudra. Jnana Mudra is the one we took with our ohms, where the thumb and forefinger touch. Jnana means knowledge. So that's a really popular mudra to take. That Jnana is I'm just writing wherever, J-N-A-N-A. And there's a little tilde. So this J-N sound, that is, we're calling it a characteristic or sound of the alphabet. Jnana. Also, it will be you'll learn several weeks from now in your chakra night. Jnana, it's the 6th chakra, and how you say it is with this, oh my gosh, it's escaping me. We have Vishuddha and yeah, who has their manual? It's gonna drive me bonkers. Oh, Ajna. It's Ajna Mudra. Yeah. A-J-N-A. Ajna Mudra. Chakra. So this is just trying to get you familiar with the sound of nya, but jnana means knowledge, and that is the thumb and forefinger touch. That's that mudra. And ajna is your 6th chakra. On the top, think about that more in the 2nd space in the mouth, which is the palatal. And then if it's on the bottom, from what I can tell here through our chart, if it's on the bottom, that means the tip of the tongue is on the roof of the mouth. It's retroflex. Yeah, sure. So I'd like for us to go through these sounds again. Oh, and at the bottom here, it says there are no Sanskrit equivalents to the English F, F, Th, Z, or Za. So just know you'll never make a F sound or a Th sound or a Z sound. Let's go back to, yeah, we're gonna try it on page 18, the box on the right that has all of our alphabet. We're gonna just try it. Ah, I, u, r, ri, and r. A, I, o, ow, aha. Aha. Wait a second. We didn't talk about aha. Oh dear. So whenever there is a mark at the bottom of the H, it means we're echoing that sound. So samastitihi. You'll see it written with an H and a little mark underneath it. It means we add the he at the end. Samastitihi. So we add the echo of that sound at the end. So like we have this AH here, it's aha. It's not just ah, it's ah. Ah. Uh-huh.
That's only with the letter E. When it has been marked for.
I don't know. Yes. The AM, that's Mm-hmm. So let's go over the vowels again. I know this gets to be a lot.
So are we actually gonna learn this language?
Yeah. Yeah, because we have a whole other hour. I mean, you're learning what you're learning today is meant to be an introduction to the sounds so that you can speak it in your class. And no, we won't be saying, hi, how are you in Sanskrit? Although namaste is a greeting to someone, someone who is you respect, but this is more to get you pronouncing things. And yeah, so we're going through all of the alphabet again, and then we're going to take a little break.
Rebecca, how is it that some, how come some teachers don't say namaste at the end of class?
Great question. Let's answer it after we go through this. So the question was, how come some teachers don't say namaste at the end of class? And we're going to talk about cultural appropriation of that word in a moment. So let's start again with the A. Ah, ah. I, u, r, r. Oh, r. Yes, anything that you can kind of curl there with the L and the R is great. K, k. Oh, sorry. A, I, o, ow, aha. K, k. G, g. Na. K, ch, cha. J, ja. Nya. Ta, ta. Da, da. Na. Ta, ta. Da, da. Na. Pa, pa. Ba, ba. Ma. Ya. Ra. La. Va. Sha. Sha. Sa. Ha. Great. Great work. Yes. Mm-hmm. So we have, and it might be helpful to look at where did that go? There are no S's. I don't see the S's on your, okay. So the first S is way back in the lifting the soft palate, sha. Then the second one is putting the tip of the tongue to the roof of the mouth, sha. And then the third one is sa. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, there it is. Syllabants. Thank you. Thanks, Barbara. As in sure, shut, and so. Sibilants. Sibilants, you are correct. Okay, what other questions about this?
I have a question.
Yeah.
At the top of this one, it says after the alphabet and translation, it says Saraswati. Is that
Yes.
different than the Devanagari? Is that different?
Yes, what she's referencing there is Saraswati is the goddess of language. So if you were, I think it's calling upon in saying the goddess of language whenever, and you'll learn a little bit more about the gods and goddesses, but she specifically would be a person you would call upon to help with the energy of learning and wisdom. So yeah, different than what Devanagari is, which Devanagari is not a person. That is the language itself and the way it's written.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about while I answer this question about namaste, if you need to kind of get up or move around, that's okay, because I do want to answer this question, and then I want us to work a little bit more on pronunciation before we take a break. So namaste, we in the whole conversation around cultural appropriation is that is not necessarily, we in the West have put a really great meaning on it that it wasn't to begin with. So namaste is a greeting. And Laura talks about this whenever they've traveled to India. Namaste is a greeting that you give to an elder. It's saying, I bow to you, elder. And then whenever we started teaching yoga in the West, we started putting meaning on it that is, we have moved through a sacred, sanctified thing together. And so there's a lot of conversation around, is it still appropriate to use at the end of a class? And here at Cambio, we don't. You might hear a teacher or two say it, and there are still a lot of famous teachers here in the West that will use that as a way to end a practice. However, we've decided that here we try to practice ending class in another way that's a little bit more solemn, a little bit more respectful and appropriate. Does that answer the question? Yeah.
So I've heard a lot of great class with Shanti.
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
Shanti means peace. Yes, isn't that cool? So yes, and Shantihi. So there is a great example of you're echoing the sound. It's not just Shanti, but it's Shantihi. So whenever you hear Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi, that is the actual translation is Om being the sound of all, the sound of beginning, middle, and end, and peace. Yes.
How do you spell Shanti? Or Shanti?
Shanti. So Shanti is S-H-A-N-T-I. And then if there were a little mark here, so at the end of it, so yes, you can say Shanti. And then at the end of like the phrase, there would be, if there were a little mark here, that means we would echo that sound. Tihi.
Just on the last time that you said it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yes. Thank you for asking clarifying questions. What else? Not really, no. So that's why at the end of class, and we still play around with it too, because Amber and Austin never said, you must say this thing now. They encouraged everyone. They said, this has become a conversation we'd like to have, an ongoing conversation. We'd like for you to rethink using the term namaste at the end to end your practice. We are rethinking it, and please try to play around with what feels nice. So sometimes it is Hari Om, sometimes it is Tat Sat, sometimes Shanti. I will say in English at the end of my class, sometimes if it's calling to me, I'll say in English, honoring the light in each of you, and I'll still end with Om Shanti, that my prayer and blessing for you is peace. One second, stop share. What's a greeting that doesn't involve Sanskrit? Oh, great question that I don't know the answer to. Yes, that's very good. Write that down.
Clarification on Sanskrit in general. Is it an actual, it's gonna sound weird, is it an actual like spoken language versus it's used just for practice?
Yes.
I've heard the word being used in films around like Facebook and stuff. but
Yes.
other than
Right. So it is a language now that's not necessarily not the kind of what we're studying for our purposes today. That's not spoken fluently. No, but there are, let me look at my notes here because it's one of 22 official languages of India. So it's still a practice language in India. There are some variations in the same system as Hindi, but this, what we're studying, is used mainly for religious and scientific discourse. So it's used for religious reasons and scientific. So it's the living language of yoga and mantra, meaning it's still alive, it's still used for yoga and for mantra, which is chanting. The history of yoga. Oh, yeah. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more talk about the philosophy, the history, all of those things. And luckily not by me. Okay, so we're right at time for a break, and then we have a ton of words that I want us to start saying. The asanas that you know in the Cambio sequence, that you're learning in the Cambio sequence, we're going to work on saying some of those, and commonly mispronounced words. So great, let's take a quick 5. It's 10 o'clock now, back at 10:05. Pause. Recording in progress. Little pop quiz, because I know you all have talked about this. How do you pronounce this word? Asana. Yes, asana. Don't even think what the other pronunciation could be. It's asana.
found out it's an app. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
The other way.
Oh,
I saw it, I was watching Hulu, and I'm like, Asana, the new app. I'm like, for businesses.
yes, I have had that app before for a job. I've had that before for a job. You're saying it wrong. Okay, so what we're going to do now is practice. I'd like to ask you to sit kind of in a different way, just something that feels different. I like to sit sometimes with a block underneath and sit in Thunderbolt pose, but I want you to just have a little bit different feel in your body, since we're not going to stand, since we kind of need to look at all of these. Yeah. Where you can be tall. And we're going to skip the page about Om because we're coming back to that. And we're skipping, no, we'll move on to common mispronunciations. And then we'll move into the asanas of the cambio sequence. So you'll see on page 22, common mispronunciations of words that we'll use a lot, and you'll hear them mispronounced, which can really trip you up. But this is nice because this is the way they are spelled. You'll see that all of the little marks and everything are there, which are kind of clues. And again, you just try your best. So asana. What's the next word? Chakra. Chakra. So if you see a C in a word, it's never, if you see a C in a Sanskrit word, it's never a S sound, it's a ch sound. Yeah, ch. Chakra. It wouldn't be k either, because that's, what is that? What, it's a K sound, right?
And that's not a misspelling.
That's not a misspelling.
But it can also be spelled with an
It can also be spelled with an H. Traditionally, it's spelled C-A-K-R-A. Yeah. But in English, a lot of times we'll write CH, just so that people know, because otherwise we'd say, is that kakra? And then that would not be good. Okay. So what about the next word? Kapha. Yes. And this is in Ayurveda, or no, sorry, not, well, yeah, Ayurveda, but also the gunas. You'll learn about the qualities, like elemental qualities. Kapha. It is not kapha, but you'll hear that in the West a lot. People make it into a f sound. It's not, it's kapha. Kapha. And we don't have time to go through all of the meanings, but kapha is like, so there are three types of energy. There's, or do I want to do it from the, not the gunas. So Ayurveda, there's vata, pitta, and kapha. So vata is like external with the wind type of a person. Pitta is like a fiery, energized person, and then kapha is like a slow down to earth nurturing person, we'll say. That's a very basic, it's not totally correct, but kapha is like the energy of the earth, of water, of slowing down. So this next word is not th sound, it is hatha, and that is hatha yoga, which means yes, we've all been saying it wrong. Hatha yoga is a lot of our lineage. No.
I didn't know what you said, what it meant.
So here, hatha is, oh, what is the translation? I don't want to get it wrong, because it refers to the practice of physical yoga postures. Hatha meaning, I don't think that's it either. That's not it. It means sun and moon together. It's the balance. Yeah. And please go back to, oh, fiddlesticks. Share screen. There we go. But I want that one to go away. Great. So next, Ananda. Repeat that. Ananda. And this is bliss. And it's very important. You'll learn once you get into true yoga with your yamas and niyamas. So it's very important that it's held out. Ananda. Not Ananda. Because a short A, like ahimsa, asteya. A short A means non, or to take away. Like ahimsa means non-harming. So if we said Ananda, that's no bliss, without bliss. We want bliss. Ananda. Yes. The next one, Ganesha. Ganesha. So this is how it's spelled, but don't be fooled. It's not Ganesha, it's Ganesha. Ganesha is the Hindu god, the elephant god, the remover of obstacles. And you can, if you want, you can ask Austin more about that in your chanting. This next one is a pose that we do a lot in the Cambio sequence, Bhujangasana. Yes, and try to soften the J a little bit. So Bhujangasana. The next one, oh, let me tell you what Bhujangasana is. Do you know? You learned it. It's in Sun A. It is Cobra. Yes, yes. Good, Andy. It's Andy, right? Yeah, okay. Bhujangasana is Cobra pose. The next one, Prasarita Padottanasana. Okay, let's break it up. Because I do not want you mumbling your way through this stuff. Prasarita Padottanasana. Now look up and trust yourself. Watch me. Prasarita Padottanasana. Yes. See, if you're going to look at it, which I mean, I encourage you to do, but sometimes we get really tripped up in, what is that? Trust yourself in your hearing. Trust yourself to learn that way. Yes-ish. I mean, all the time. Now, in my class, when I'm teaching a vinyasa class, do I roll all my R's? No. I'm just like, sometimes I'm like, oh, I remembered the Sanskrit word. I don't always. But for the most part, there's a little bit of, yeah, that. Prasarita Padottanasana. Do we know what that is? Yes, it's a wide-legged forward fold. It's actually not seated, it's standing. So that's your standing wide-legged forward fold that comes in your triangle series. There is another word for a seated wide angle fold that I wonder if it's here. No. So the next one, Supta Baddha Konasana. Supta Baddha Konasana. Do we know what this one is? No, I'm sorry, but good guess. I love, see, but the thing is, I love the conviction. If we're like, I think I know it, I would much rather you do that in your entire 12 weeks of learning. I would much rather you be like, is it this? Rather than, I'm just not going to say anything. So that was not close at all. It's not your but that's okay. So Supta Baddha Konasana is seated, bound, angle pose. Seated is Supta, bound is Baddha, and angle pose, Konasana. Butterfly pose, you'll also hear it called. The chair pose, does anyone, pop quiz, does anyone know the Sanskrit of chair pose? Utkatasana. Utkatasana. Okay, so the next one, Samasti. It is wrong. There should be a little mark underneath it. Okay, Samastitihi. Yes, I'm gonna make a note for Laura. So the little diacritical mark should be underneath the last I. Samastitihi, samastitihi, rather than samastiti. TH is K, yeah.
Will there ever be a mark above the I? It's also already technically, or in English versions of it?
No, it would be like a long line to say, hold this out. Yeah. The next one, now remember, a C is a ch sound. Yeah, of course.
How do you know what sounds to like echo. You know, like in some of is it always like the
At the end. It will be just at the end.
But
Mhm.
like any word that has an echo will always be like that.
There aren't many of them that we, for our purposes, samastitihi is one, shantihi is one. They're the only two I can think of off the top of my head. So don't stress. And you know what? Even if you said the word and there was supposed to be a little echo at the end and it didn't happen, I don't think there would be a yoga god that would be like, chung, chung, chung. And I don't think, again, hopefully we're not going to greatly offend anyone. We're trying our best coming from a place of humility and learning, right? Okay. So next is, are those the only questions so far? Great. Chaturanga, Dandasana. So this is four-limb staff pose, which is basically lowering, it's lowering from high plank to low plank, but you won't hear it all that often. So it's here, Chaturanga, Dandasana.
We had this question yesterday.
Yeah.
Because it's spelled two different ways in the manual.
Mm.
One is CH and one is CA. What is the correct spelling?
So same sort of thing. That's a good question. With chakra, traditionally it is CA because that's a ch sound. But oftentimes in our English, we will write CH just so people will know. People who wouldn't know will know it's the ch sound. So both are right, is the answer. Chaturanga, Dandasana. And if you'll notice, well, we don't have time to get super geeky. Well, I will go ahead and say, so we have in Chaturanga, the diacritical mark is on the top, which means retroflex, Chaturanga. Oh, no, on the top, it means further back in the mouth, Chaturanga. And then in Dandasana, we've got the tip of the tongue on the roof of the mouth because the da is on the bottom, Dandasana. But truly, y'all, that's just so you know it. No one would ever be like, your resonance sounded weird and off, and how dare you? It's Chaturanga Dandasana. The next one, Viparita Karani. Viparita Karani. That's legs up the wall or waterfall pose. So where you're lying on your back and your legs are straight up. This next one is in your sequence. Do you want to give it a go? Yes, Ushtrasana. Yes, Ushtrasana. That's camel pose. Yes. USH sound. Strasana. The next one, you'll hear it mispronounced quite commonly because we've gotten into the habit of it. I still mispronounce it. This is, the correct way is Dhanurasana. Notice there's no y. You'll hear a lot of teachers say Dhanurasana, and that's just a bad habit we've gotten into. So it's there's no y sound. There's Dhanurasana. Yes, everybody. And this last one, so, let me tell you what Dhanurasana is. That's floor bow. That's floor bow. Do you know what that one is? Where you're lying on your stomach, you grab the backs of your ankles, you kick up, and you're in a beautiful U shape. Even though it might not feel beautiful. And the last one is Paschimottanasana. Good. Now look up and try it. Paschimottanasana. I tell you, you all are clear as a bell when you trust yourselves by your ears. So Paschimottanasana is a seated forward fold. That comes towards the end of your sequence. Questions? Paschi. Paschi. with a little ch sound, just a little one. Paschimottanasana. And it's also a little sh sound, so it's sh, sh. Okay. The next page is vocabulary words, which I wish we had time to go over, but what I'd like for us to do is move into, so I'd like for you to come back to those. You can take a look at them. They kind of help you start to put together, oh, this means this, and I might see that word or hear that word more than once throughout class, like Adho Mukha Svanasana and Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. That's downward facing dog and upward facing dog. So downward is Adho and Urdhva is upward. But we're going to go ahead and skip to the page 24, Sanskrit asanas from Cambio Yoga Sequence. I want us to practice saying all of these. There's a little pronunciation guide here about, okay, so vowels that are held out are in uppercase letters, and then vowels that are short are in lowercase. The letter H indicates an aspiration when it's following a consonant, which we've talked about, except for the following, and okay. And then 3 here is C equals cat, ch is change, S is sit, shoe, TH is tire. Well, okay. What I say about this pronunciation guide and how it's sort of sounded out phonetically for you, let's trust our ears. Don't get too caught up in reading it a certain way. I want you to hear it and say it a certain way. And you can always come back to this recording if you want to practice. So, child pose, balasana. Tabletop pose is chakravakasana. Yes, chakravakasana. Chakravakasana. And you don't hear that all that often. It can mean tabletop pose, or you will hear, I know Austin will say chakravakasana for like a tabletop flow where you're going from child's pose to tabletop, and it's a cat-cow thing. But just know that that's the name of the pose. These next 2, cat and cow pose, I've probably never heard the Sanskrit in a class, but I want you to say it and be aware. Cat pose, Marjariyasana. Yes, very good. Cow pose, Bidilasana. Good. Downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. 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 So you've got an SH with the V, and you kind of shove it all together. So it's different than Shavasana. Shavasana is corpse pose at the end of class. Yes, okay. So yes, okay. So Svana is dog, that means dog. So that's not the same as corpse pose. Svanasana and Shavasana are 2 totally different things, and your mind might be splitting right now, but it's very different. So, and with the H, remember with the H, you want to make it a little bit, you all are doing fantastically, by the way, just be a little bit more sure in what you're saying. So Adho Mukha Svanasana. Yes, let's say it again. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Yes, and that's okay. That is okay. That's terrific. Next is our forward fold, Uttanasana. Mountain pose, Tadasana. Tadasana. Yes. Extended mountain pose or facing up, Urdhva Hastasana. Let's try it again, Urdhva Hastasana. Yes, you all are doing great. Mm-hmm. Because so this is what we call it in English is extended mountain, but the translation is upward facing hand pose. Hasta is hand. Hastasana. Yeah. Standing at attention, we've had practice with. This is samastitihi. Yes. This is halfway lift. Ardha Uttanasana. So we've said Uttanasana before. That's a forward fold. Half is Ardha. So Ardha Uttanasana. Beautiful. Plank pose. You'll rarely hear this one. Kumbhakasana. Yes, Kumbhakasana. Cobra pose, we've already practiced. Bhujangasana. Lovely. We practiced a four-limb staff pose. Chaturanga Dandasana. Doing great. Chair pose is, say it without me. Oh, sorry, I skipped a chair pose. Utkatasana. Yes, chair pose. You all are like, I am saying exactly what's on this list. Chair. Okay, so upward facing dog, we'll go back. Upward facing dog is Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Let's break it down again. Urdhva. So, Mukha Svanasana. Yes. Remember, while we're practicing, try to think like roundness through the mouth. And I'm the only person who's caring right now about the pronunciation. No one would be like, that sounded flat. But I just want you, the more you create space in your mouth, the easier it will be to get out all of these sounds. So, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Yes, yes. Just muddle your way through it. That's all we can do is try. Remember, we are a baby. We are a baby learning sounds. That's what other languages are. We are practicing making sounds in our mouth, and no one is expecting us to get it perfectly. So chair pose, say that again. Yes, Utkatasana. Three-legged down dog. Eka Pada Adho Mukha Svanasana. So let's try it all together. I'll say it and then you say it. Eka Pada Adho Mukha Svanasana. Yeah, yes, good job. So that means one footed downward facing dog. Our high crescent lunge, Anjaneyasana. Great. Moving on. Next page. Warrior two pose is Virabhadrasana. Virabhadrasana. Yes, I know that one's a mouthful. Extended side angle. So here's where, once again, the energy and the language are the actual thing. They are the thing. Utthita, it means extended. Side angle pose, Parshva Konasana. Yes, you see kona in there, meaning angle. So that's side angle. Utthita Parshva Konasana. Yes, good everyone. Reverse warrior. So this can be in other places. It could be in English something besides. There's other names. There's other terms for reverse warrior. But Vaparita Virabhadrasana. Good. We did this one, reclined bound angle sit-ups, Supta Baddha Konasana. Great. No, boat pose, Navasana. A little softness between the V and the W, Navasana. Yes, revolved crescent lunge. So we've already done crescent lunge, which is Anjaneyasana, and now we're adding the revolved part. Parivrita Anjaneyasana. Great. Lizard lunge, Uttan Prishtasana. Prishtasana. Yes, good. Also one that's rarely used. The Sanskrit is rarely used in a class. Side plank pose, you will hear this one often. Vasishtasana. Such a mouthful for whatever reason to have an S and then a sh. I'm like, Vasishtasana. Once again, just try your best. Try your best. And you know, it would be awesome. No one's going to expect you to remember the Sanskrit for all of these words, but if you want to start practicing just saying them, if you want to practice them while you teach, that's amazing. That's amazing. And it's better to have tried than to have not tried at all. Next pose is eagle pose, Garudasana. Beautiful. Gorilla pose, Padahastasana. So pada meaning foot, hand meaning hasta, it's hand to foot pose, Padahastasana. Crow pose, Bakasana. Triangle is once again Utthita, which is extended, Utthita Trikonasana. Here we are with wide-legged forward fold again. This is the standing one, Prasarita Padottanasana. You all are doing great. Do you feel like little Sanskrit robots? Goddess pose. So goddess pose or horse pose can be called one of two things in English. It can also be called one of two things in Sanskrit. Utkata Konasana or Devyasana. Yeah, Devi is a goddess. So Devyasana would be goddess pose. Camel pose we practiced, Ushtrasana. Beautiful. Half pigeon pose. So this is one-footed, basically it's saying one-footed pigeon pose. Ekapada Kapotasana. Yeah, nice job. And locust pose is Shalabhasana. Shalabhasana. Great. Seated forward fold, we practiced Paschimottanasana. Yes, Paschi. So it's a soft, yes, Paschimottanasana. But I'll just say 50 billion times, if you were like, Paschimottanasana in a class, no one would be like, yeah. They would be like, cool, they said the word. Happy baby pose is Ananda Balasana. Now remember, it's Ananda Balasana. Because if we said Ananda Balasana, that is not a joyful baby. That is not joyful. That is without joy. So Ananda Balasana. And think about it. If you have a little smile on your face as you're saying Ananda Balasana, isn't it just fun to say? Like that is joyful. There's a joyful feeling in Ananda. There's a lightness. Yes. Beautiful. Supine twist, hardly ever used. I've never heard it in a class before, but we want you to know. Jatara Parivartanasana. Jatara Parivartanasana. Yes. Let's try it one more time for good measure. Jatara Parivartanasana. Beautiful. And then corpse pose or your final rest pose is Shavasana. Yes, that one is really important to say, and you all said it with conviction. So good job, because that is what we're working towards. Shavasana. Great. So you want to go back and, is there anything you need to go back and say? Do you have questions?
I struggle with the. Yeah, standing at attention, I don't know.
Uh-huh. Yes, so think about all of this being forward in the mouth. What's nice is everybody hop up really quickly. Why don't we come to standing at attention? So feet together, hands at heart center, press the palms together. Not only do you notice length through the spine and you notice your legs activate, don't you notice like a slight energy coming forward to the front of the face and to where the heart center is, to the hands, to the heart? So think about when you say this word, that all of it is forward. Samastiti. And if it sounds like this, samastiti. That's okay too. Samastiti or samastitihi. Now focus all of that. So there's like a space between your mouth here and the tips of your fingers. Samastitihi. Yes, it just feels concentrated. It feels focused, standing at attention. Does that help at all? A little bit? Yes, absolutely. And you can go ahead and sit down. So it will throw you, especially seeing, because our brains are so used to seeing a TH and thinking that's a th sound. It's not. And it will just take time. It will take time. Samastitihi. So la 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 la. What does this one say? That's business of yoga. So not helpful. Okay. I want to, there used to be, maybe it's on the Om page. No, it is not. Well, there used to be some more, stop share. There used to be some more references where you can learn listed, I thought. But here is a great one that Laura is Laura's teacher. I'll write it here. Manorama, and then I'll get out of the way so you can see it. So she is, she's on Spotify. She also has a website, Manorama. And she's excellent with, you can listen and practice along with pronunciations of the alphabet, of so many poses, of Sanskrit terms. She also has mantra practice. She has a website if you Googled her. And I don't remember the name of the website. Let me look. Looky here. But that's an excellent reference. You can also look for Indian speakers. Let's see. Manorama online. Nope, that's not her. So let me find her website. Or I'll have to ask Laura what the website is. But I know she's on Spotify.
She shows up on SanskritStudies.org, BigPowerYoga.com, and Teach.yoga.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. So SanskritStudies.org, Teach Yoga.
Yoga, and then a lot of YouTube videos pop up as well.
Perfect, yes.
Instagram, Man9.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay, so how are we doing with all of this? Do your brains feel like mush? Good. That's the goal. Do your mouths feel like mush? A little bit, yeah. that's okay. And what questions do you have? Yeah.
How often are you? Is it very consistent or standard of like, oh, get at least 2 or 3 in there, or how does that?
There's not a standard as far as teaching here goes. However, in like out of respect of us, and we'll get into this in ethics later this morning, once we are on this path of learning, we kind of commit to always being on a path of learning and always on a path of betterment. And so I will say it depends personally on the person and the teacher, how much they want to push themselves. So sometimes you'll hear me say it in class, but not for every pose. Sometimes you'll hear Laura say them in class. Sometimes I'm trying to think of who else, like and sometimes there are teachers who will use the name, the Sanskrit name first before saying the English. And it's really personal preference and what speaks to you, but there's not a, so the long answer to your question is there's not a definitive standard here. I can't be.
Appropriate to ask the teacher to say the same speech during the class?
Totally. Like if you were, I would say maybe not during a flow when they're giving you, like in Sun B, how you're flowing 1 breath per movement. But if there was a lull and you weren't in meditation or something and they were directing, like you could always ask me like and maybe I wouldn't even know. That's the thing. You could always ask, like if you're in lizard lunge or something and they're near you and you happen to say, without it being disruptive, you can say, so what's the Sanskrit for this? Or you can just try to keep it in your mind and ask after class. Yeah, but you can always ask. Or the same thing, you won't be able to come to my class while you're in training because I teach Tuesday evenings and Saturday mornings. But if you ever came to my class and said, could you, I'm really practicing and I want to hear the Sanskrit while we're going through the flow, could you please try to say the Sanskrit for as many poses as you remember? I would love to do that. I'd love that challenge. Yeah. What other questions do you have? Yes. Mhm. Yes, but that I want to be clear that the translation doesn't translate to horse. And you did try it, even though you said I'm not even going to try it. You did try it, and that's great. Yay, Heather. Yay. So the let me look at what that Utkata Konasana or it was something like that, wasn't it? Yeah. Where are you? Utkata Konasana. So Kona meaning angle. Utkata, I'm not totally sure the exact translation, but that's similar to Utkatasana, which is chair pose. So it probably means like seated back somehow, like sitting or reaching back somehow. So a reaching back angle pose, which if you think about it, this is like you're kind of reaching things back, but I don't know the actual, it doesn't mean horse. That Sanskrit does not mean horse, even though that's what we call it. So Devi Asana. So I want to talk, what other questions? I want to talk a little bit about, we've really focused on the poses themselves and speaking the poses, but to get back into how this language is really a language that can, it's holy, for lack of a better term. It's holy and sacred, and how that can, not only can we honor, but we can experience that sacredness through chanting Om. That's one perfect doorway into it. So I want you to feel And then when you're in chanting with Austin later, you'll be able to dive into this a little bit more about what mantra means, mantra, about what it means and what it is, and how it can enhance your practice. Made of two different words here. You'll hear it commonly said mantra, but once again, that's okay. I would rather you say the word than not say the word. But if we're really working towards the pronunciation, remember the A is a little more sound as in cut. So mantra, mantra. Yeah. So I'm just pulling out markers everywhere. So I want to talk about how this is a language of vibration to kind of recap. It's a healing and calming language. Even though right now it might feel a little stressful or exciting or whatever it is to say these things, it's really a calming vibrational language. It's healing. And you can learn more about the healing benefits through mantra or chanting. It also can energize. Sanskrit is made up of vibrational sounds. So it is vibrational sounds. And the more we come in contact with vibration, the more we have the experience ourselves of vibration, union, what yoga really is. Yes.
Yeah, so isn't that part, all languages like that right now, so that you're saying like like, I guess in that sense, if you want to focus on vibrations, like as you're just like when we're saying it's like very long and pronounced.
That's a great question, because the way I've been talking about it, there are two different ways. Yes, we've experienced the literal physical vibration in the body of the sound, but vibrational healing is a true thing. Like the more we create vibration through sound, the more it resonates with the energy and vibration of everything else in the room, of everything else on the planet. So really we're talking about both ways, even though I said, I want you to feel like the resonance. So there's a difference. Vibration meaning resonance in your mouth or in your body compared to the metaphysical vibration. Does that make sense at all? There are two ways of looking at it, and both ways kind of coincide to create a deeper experience. So we're talking surface experience. Yes, scientifically, there's sound vibration happening, but that vibration also has a deeper meaning. Like a plant has a vibration and an energy quality. It's creating its own vibration, just as we are. And the more we create the sound, the more healing it is.
Thank you for bringing that.
Yes.
If you understand here, there was a study done once and also an article of a guy who broke his leg and his cat purred on it. And the doctor said the vibration from the purr was a frequency that was a healing level that sped up the process. So it is both like physical vibrations that you can find a frequency that will hit you. And it's also, as you said, the vibrations of the energy that you're feeling.
That's fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. Wow.
Sick and just purr.
So we're saying everyone should get a cat to purr on them to heal them. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Hang on one sec. We've got a question back here. I love that. I will say yes, and there are so many other ways to look at it and answers, but yes, and that's a perfect segue into what we're really culminating today with, to come back to Om. Om is a way to experience vibration, but it also shifts energy. Vibration, Om brings things back into alignment, does it not? I would love for you to leave today feeling a little bit more comfortable chanting Om, and maybe to even try it sometime while you're practicing your teaching.
Can
Yes.
you, repeat that? Oh, you kind of defined it. It's a way to.
There are so many ways to define Om, so I don't know what I just said. Om is a way to experience vibration and to bring yourself and others into alignment. Om, we're going to break down Om a little bit. Om is the primordial sound. So in the beginning, there was the word, and the word was God. Well, the word was Om. In the beginning, the sound was Om. Om is composed of 4 different sounds. So there are 4 different parts you can think of. There's the ow that begins in the back of the mouth. Remember, things begin in the back and they move forward. So there's the ow, there's the o traveling up along the roof of the mouth and to the lips, Om. And then the 4th sound is the silence that is sustained after an Om, which is called the Turiya. So the 4th, just fun fact, the 4th sound, which is the silence after an Om, is called Turiya, and I'll spell that here. That's the letting it settle. So whenever we're chanting Om, we're creating a special frequency and vibration. We're creating a feeling and emotion, and then we're sitting in that. We're letting it, we're marinating in the soup, if you will. So it moves from the guttural all the way to the labial. And it represents the full cycle of life. So Om has a beginning, a middle, and an end. If you think about we'll talk about the Cambio sequence, but in a vinyasa class or in a yoga class, it's also representing the cycle of life. We have a beginning in a seed in child's pose. We move through, we sustain throughout the practice, and then the end is our figurative death, corpse pose. What else to say about Om? Here's recommended reading. Well, I'll write this down at the end. We're already on 2 Om. So yes. Mm-hmm. I cannot elaborate on that. So but to further accent in your minds that there is a beginning, there is a middle space, and there's an end space. Just like it is also, but thank you for asking that question. There are gods that are associated with this. The beginning is Brahma. Brahma is thought to be the creator of all. And Vishnu is the sustainer of all energy. So Brahma is the creator. Vishnu is the sustainer. Shiva, who comes at the end, similar to Shavasana, is the destroyer of all, or brings things to resolution.
Seeing the sun rise and heat parts of the
I love that visual. No, but you could teach it that way, especially with people who are more visual, who need like the idea of like a beginning, middle, and end. We can also visualize what's happening in your body. So I would like for us, and then we'll take a break. I would like for us to get into chanting Om. So sit tall. Hands rest in the lap. Whatever feels most comfortable. If the palms are up, maybe thumb and fourth finger touch. And I want you to visualize the base of the spine. And begin to make that back guttural sound. Ah, ah. And if you can even imagine the resonance happening at the base, down in the root chakra. Ah, good. Now I want you to visualize that the sound or the energy is moving up and out through the roof of the mouth. So, and then bring the vibration to the lips. So this is a really low pitch, but I want to start with a low pitch to try to get you feeling things more deeply in the body. So when you put all three things together, it sounds a little bit like this, and you can feel the journey of the sound. Try that. Do you feel the difference a little bit, perhaps? Thinking of it as this journey. So what we're going to do is rolling ohms. Has anyone ever experienced rolling ohms before? We're going to do this for the last 2 minutes of practice. The last 2 minutes of class, and then we'll take a break. So rolling ohm, basically, in class, normally you'll start with 1 ohm, or you'll do 3 together or something like that. How this works is whenever you're finished with 1 ohm, you don't wait for the teacher, you don't wait for anyone else, you just begin another ohm. So eventually we'll all be ohming kind of at different paces or starting at different times. And this rolling of the sound creates a more in-depth feel of what's going on while we're creating the ohm for ourselves. It's also washing over everyone else. So I'll let you know. How will I let you know? Well, I don't want to worry. I just want to I'll let you know whenever we come to the end. So just keep ohming until you hear me say last one. So sit tall, close the eyes if that's comfortable. Feel the shoulders relax, low belly relaxes. Try to begin the vibration from the base of the spine. Let it move up and out. One more together. Inhale. And now you're on your own. Keep going whenever you're out of breath. Good. Last one. Feel the lightness in the crown of the head. Everything moving up and out. And open the eyes. How do you feel? How was that experience for you? Do you notice the change of energy in the room?
Mhm. You know, when you talk about, you having everything in your local community, I felt that, coming from the federal background codes, and through my root system, and I through my belly, to my chest, and as I was going out, releasing, but it was just like this circle.
Circular.
You know,
Love that. Yes. And eventually, when that vibration becomes more natural, you can start to feel the energy shift up into the upper chakras and kind of cascade out of the crown of the head and still feel a circular, or whatever it might work for you. It might not feel circular for you, and that's okay too. This is an excellent way to ground and to also re-energize yourself. It's a great way whenever you're teaching and you're feeling a little, just start the whole class with Om. It shifts the energy for everyone. If it's the kind of thing where you don't really feel like you're on the same page, or you haven't gotten to meet everybody in your class, try an Om. How was rolling Om for you? Yeah, well, hopefully we'll get a chance to do it again. We're going to take a break. You're 10 minutes, so come back at 11:13. And there will be, let's go ahead and kind of, if we can, shift ourselves because we've got a lot more people coming in. And by a lot, I actually don't know how many. Okay, great job, everybody.